Okay, so on this video, I'm going to work two different problems from the ones we worked in class. The first one I'm going to work is practice exercise 9-1A. It's from page 434. And I'm going to work exercise 9-3. It's on page 437. So these two exercises are reminding us how we actually determine the cost of the assets that are going on the books. We need to do that before we figure out how much to depreciate, right? We need to figure out, is this part of the capital asset that goes on the balance sheet, or is it an expense? And for things like land, where there might be legal fees, surveying, extra costs, we get to capitalize all those extra costs. So this first problem, we distinguish between capitalizing and expensing, and the second, we just total up all the costs. And then we'll go on and do depreciation. So the first practice, exercise 9-1A, says on August 7, Green River Inflatables paid $16.75 to install a hydraulic lift and $40 for an air filter. So journalize the entries. So adding that hydraulic lift and improves its vehicle, right? So that is a capital expenditure. It gets added to the balance sheet by adding it to the truck. Changing an air filter, that's just routine maintenance, doesn't make it better in any way, doesn't even really extend the life. It's just something you have to do every so often. So the first expenditure, $16.75, gets added to the truck, and the second one, the air filter, becomes an expense. So to journalize those, it's pretty simple. We'll just make ourselves a little journal here, right? Date, account, good old debit, and good old credit. Okay, so in the problem it tells us the date is August 7. And so it's install a hydraulic lift on its delivery trucks and an air filter for delivery truck. So to capitalize it, we're going to add it to the asset delivery truck, right? So to increase an asset, that's always a debit. So delivery truck, that's $16.75, right? And it says they paid, so it's not going on account. If it's on account, that would mean we'd have an account payable. But it says they paid, so that means we just put out the cash, right? So when cash is given out, that's always a credit, so $16.75. All right, so that takes care of that. The second part of the question, $40 for an air filter. Now that's just an expense. We'll call it repairs and maintenance expense. And it's still 8.7. Repairs and maintenance expense. And some places might even put truck there. We'll just leave it like that. And it doesn't say on account, so we'll just go cash. If, of course, it said on account at, Pep Boys, we'd put account payable Pep Boys. But it's cash, so we'll do that. And it was 40 and 40. All right, and that's it. We are done with practice exercise 9-1A. All right, so we'll move on and we'll do exercise 9-3, determining cost of land. So for this one, what this problem is meant to remind us about is when we are determining the cost of an asset, we get to include the things that make it usable. So if it's something like a machine and we have to have it delivered and set up and installed and maybe do something different with our electrical system, right? All those get to become part of the cost of that asset. So for land, things like surveying and attorney fees, and maybe you have to grade it or do something to make it usable, those all can become part of the cost of the land. So let's look at this problem. They acquired an adjacent lot to construct a warehouse. They paid $100,000, so that's pretty easy. Paid $100,000. Gave a short-term note for $700,000. So they paid $800,000 for it. That's what that means. $100,000 in cash and a short-term note, $700,000. Legal fees were $5,000. Delinquent taxes were $18,500. Fees to remove an old building were $12,000. So some of this we can add on. Materials salvaged from the demolition building were sold for $4,000. All right, so when we did that demolition, we actually got $8,000. Oh, those are my dachshunds. Sorry about that. I guess they're barking at a dog outside. That's exciting. Material salvaged were $4,000. A contractor was paid $950,000 to construct a new warehouse. Determine the cost of the land to be reported on the balance sheet. All right, so we're talking about only the land, so not the warehouse. Right? So the warehouse is something separate. All right. So to do this, we'll just sort of add them all up. Right? So we've got the cost initially, right, which was we paid $100,000 in cash plus a note for $700,000, so that's $800,000, right? So it was $800,000 was what we paid cash to the owners for. What else did we use to make the land usable? Well, legal fees, $5,000. Legal fees, $5,000. And delinquent taxes, $18,500. And remove an old building, $12,000. So that is $835,500. $835,500. But wait, the old trash from the building actually was reusable, so we got $4,000. So we don't get to capitalize that part because that came in. So less salvage material, right? $4,000. So that's $831,500. All right. So what we would do is we would carry that on the books for $831,500. All right. So next we'll move on to problem 9-2A on the next video, and hopefully there'll be no crazy dachshunds. All right. Thanks for watching.